Ndiredi ukundiza niphumoya ndinawabala
another episode of One-on-One with Amakhosikazi. This is a program where we bring in a woman of great exploits. According to us, she has achieved a lot, touched her community in Zimbabwe regionally and internationally, just for us to learn from her. And today I'm very pleased to get to hear from someone that I've admired from a distance. She doesn't know this, or she didn't know this until recently. Nontoe Masuku. I find it funny calling you in full because I always call you Nontoe. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Thank you for agreeing to be on the program.
Thank you for having me.
It's such an honor to have you.
Thank you.
So tell us, I know Nontoe, the brand and image consultant, or image branding consultant, the business person, and everything that you do in leadership. We'd like to know about Nontoe, the person. Where are you from? Wakhulela ngaphi? Yeah, just the basic to start us off.
Okay, thank you for that opportunity. We'll see. I am Nontogozo, but people call me Nontoe, some call me No, some call me Maku. You know, I am born and bred Bulawayo. I am the eldest of 4 girls in the family. I am a wife to a very supportive and amazing husband. I am a mother of 2 twins, Uyoliso and Mondli. They're 10, turning 11 this year. I am an entrepreneur, I am a Christian, and I'm a homeschooler.
Homeschooling?
Yes.
That is the key word, the buzzword. Looking at the lockdown, how has the lockdown changed your life? Like you mentioned, you're a mother, you're a wife, you're a Christian, and our lives have been disrupted at that level in so many ways. We cannot interact with family broader than our immediate families. We cannot meet and congregate as churches, and our children have to be homeschooled. And you've been homeschooling for a year. How has this corona thing worked out for you and your family?
In terms of the homeschooling, there's not been much of a difference because we have, we started, I think we started before everybody else. So we started beginning of last year. So in terms of the homeschooling, there hasn't been much disruption there. In terms of, say, church, thankfully we have, our church has managed to organize these live streaming. So on Saturday, we go to church on Saturday. So on Saturdays, we actually have all these programs that, we can just watch online, which has been great. And it's also given us time to, like on Saturday mornings, normally when we're going to church, we're rushing, going to church, we're going to be late. But now we're actually having breakfast together as a family, and the kids love that. The other day they were saying, I think we love the lockdown. Yes. So we're going to sit down and spend more time as family, have breakfast, and later on in the day, on Saturday, we take a walk. So it's really helped us to bond as a family. In terms of my profession and career-wise, that has been a disruption, because when it all started at the beginning of the year, I had planned my things. I said, this year I'm going to be orderly. I'm going to do this. I'm going to achieve that, and then life happened, and so it kind of took me back, and it really did cause me to be unsettled, and wasn't too sure what's going on. So the blessing of the lockdown has been, it's allowed me to really kind of pause, to introspect, and to really search. And I've never really been somebody who reads. I'm not a bookworm. But this one, really? Literally now.
I'm so happy to hear you say that. I'm so glad to hear you talk about not being a bookworm, because I'm not one either, but there's this phobia, no, not phobia. There's, I don't know what you call it when the world is crazy about something. Reading books, which is perfect, which is great, which is, I guess, the normal. But not everyone is normal, and I'm not really a bookworm. Though I live with people that love to read, and there are books all around my house. How do you live in a world or an environment where everyone is reading around you and you don't feel like it always?
Okay, so how I was saying, I'm not really a bookworm, but what came out of this whole lockdown is because of my introspection and trying to searching and trying to get answers, I have been binging on On books.
Wow! So you've gained the skill.
Yes, I love, I've been reading, like, for example, stuff, John Maxwell stuff, or anything to do with personal development, anything to do with, emotional intelligence, and even watching webinars and listening to podcasts. So I have become a reader, which I'm pretty, proud of, because of that wanting to get answers and seeking knowledge and stuff like that. So that's what has been that's what has come out of the lockdown. Yes.
And reading your profile, it says you're an organizational development specialist, and organizations have been changed greatly by this. How do you trying to adjust personally? Have you seen the change in organizations? What are they contending with in this period?
Okay, what are they contending with? I mean, I guess now, like all of us are, starting point, for example, in terms of, say, training and facilitation. It's just like the other day, I actually got an email. I was supposed to do a workshop with an organization, and then, because of the COVID-19, that has been postponed. And now they are thinking of doing stuff online, So as businesses, now you're looking at what's around you. It's not business as usual. There's a new norm, a new way of doing things. So there's remote, people working from home. So those are things that organizations need to adjust to. What systems, people need to start putting systems in place where, people can work freely from home and yet still be productive. Training online, what does it entail? What systems do we need to put in place in terms of getting people to adjust to the new way of doing things? There's some training that needs to be done for them to be aware of what's going on, to upskill them so that they are fully equipped and able to work productively under the new norm, current.
Are Zimbabwean organizations ready? Our economy, businesses, are they ready for this transition?
Well, personally, maybe some more than others, but I think it's work in progress because this is something that people didn't expect. And so I think it's something that organizations are actually working towards. They are getting to understand better how it all works. I'm sure they are equipping their leaders, their employees. So I would say it's work in progress, particularly, say, for the bigger organizations. For the smaller organizations, the SMEs, there's a bit of a challenge there. But I, from what I'm seeing and as I interact with people, everybody is trying to find a fit. Everybody is trying to pivot one way or the other. So I think it's something that is work in progress.
And looking at the ordinary person, they're used to walking into a service provider's offices or their place of work. Are ordinary people going to be able to adjust to looking for services online, paying for goods online? Now that shopping, you can't all come into town. Do you think people are slowly adjusting to that?
I think people are slowly adjusting to that. It's not something that it's naturally, it's not something that we do naturally, but we're forced. You want a service. If you want to get it, you have to find them. So if they're online, we all have to learn how to go online. I think the unfortunate bit, though, about maybe our part of the world is that not all of us are able to actually access, whether it's bundles or, computer, or whatever it is, for us to actually be online like 24/7. So I'm sure we have a long way to go in terms of that. But I think people are adjusting. I mean, the other day people were raving on about, is it Fazak? I think they have an online service and they were like, oh no, this is really good, we should carry on with it. So we're buying into it, and I think we're enjoying the convenience that comes with things like that. Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah.
We're learning things that we didn't know we could do and being forced into them, like the money shortages, which forced us to use cards. Before that, everyone wanted to have cash in their hands. Can we go back to Nontoe and you're growing up? We know the Nontoe who's like, the brand the powerhouse that you may not accept, but to us you are. Did you always see yourself becoming who you are today?
A powerhouse. I like that. I can't say I have, Busi, to be honest with you. I grew up, like I said, I grew up in Bulawayo. Mom and dad. Mother was a teacher. My father was a policeman. I went to boarding school. I can't say I was exceptional academically. But I think what has shaped who I am today is a number of things. First of all, having a supportive husband. My husband has been very supportive, and he many
How long
times
have you been married? Maybe that gives us a bit of context.
I think 2016 years.
Really?
16, 17 years, yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you. My husband has been very supportive, and many times he sees things in me that I may not necessarily see in myself, and he's nudged me. You know, many instances, yes, many instances he's nudged me. And two, I think self-awareness, more and more being aware of who I am, what my strengths are, have helped me to be more focused. So when I started, I remember at school, I started business and administration. I majored in accounting. Not me at all. Okay, I didn't excel in that area, accounting. And then I went into marketing. I went and worked in the bank. And as time progressed, and as I began to search myself more, I think I had a better understanding of who I am. And I'm a developer, naturally. And when I look back at my life, I remember I always used to be the one who would be the teacher somewhere, or I'd find myself with the broom, teaching the broom, or when we are with children, I'll be the one who's telling people, okay, leading out, no, this is the play that we're going to do, guys, this is how we're going to do it, this is how. I think I'm a developer. I love to help people grow and realize their potential. Find themselves, yes. So with that awareness, I have gravitated towards what I'm doing now, where I am in personal development, organizational development, because I'm working within my strength zone. It's something that comes to me naturally, because I yearn, when we have a conversation, many times we start talking about with a person, I want to know, okay, so what are you doing? So what would you like to do? And, I'm already wanting to develop. Or when someone is talking and I can see, this person is doing great, but I always think, yeah, but if
they did
this, it just comes to me naturally. Yeah. So that self-awareness has driven me to kind of be more focused and gravitate towards your personal development, organizational development, working with women, because I have that, because I'm a woman myself, I have an understanding of what women go through, and I naturally I naturally relate well with women, Right now we'll take a short break. We'll be back with Nontoe Masuku right after these messages. Welcome back to One on One with Amakhosikazi, and today we have none other than Nontoe Masuku here telling us about her life and her profession and what makes her tick. Nontoe, you were talking about self-awareness, and I noticed that for many of us, generally human beings and mostly women, self-awareness helps us to get to the dreams that we aspire to. Tell me more about how important it is. You talked about how some of the things you had to learn or go through were not necessarily things you were good at, but they were good at uncovering who you were in the long run. Michelle Obama calls it becoming, because constantly she's working towards being that woman that she wants to be. How important is that, and how many of us women understand that we need to go through these pains, through these sessions where we might not want to be there, but we are being molded towards a certain point of our lives? Good question. It's very important. I think, many times a lot of us just live. You start a job or profession, you are just going and you're thinking, okay, someone is going to promote me, someone is going to take me from point A to point B. But it's important to be intentional in our growth. And it's not just professionally, but it's in all aspects of our lives. Because when you stop growing, anything that stops growing dies. Okay. So you don't want to. So whether it's spiritually, whether it's intellectually, whether it's physically, whatever, mind, body, soul, you need to be intentional about your growth. And in that way, you'll be able to, you kind of map out the things that you want to do in life. Life happens. Life happens, but at least if you have some vision and something that you're working towards, it helps you. And I have realized that for me personally, for much of my life, particularly, beginning of when I started working and stuff like that, I wasn't really intentional about my growth. Okay. I think this intentionality actually is something that I started being intentional about not too long ago. If you're not intentional about your growth, wherever the wind blows, you sway with it, If whatever makes the money, you'll sway with it. Whatever, you will just sway with it. But if you're intentional about your growth, you know that, okay, this is where I want to get to. This is, in 5 years from now, or even 2 years from now, I want to have achieved this, or I want to have achieved that in this particular area of life. It helps you. And if you have people who actually know what your plans are, they're also there to help, to nudge you forward and say, okay, well, how have you done this? So I think, and more as women, when you get married and you have children, life happens. And you forget yourself. You forget who you are. It's like the other day, I was just thinking, what are my hobbies, by the way? I had to kind of sit back and think, what are my hobbies? Because you forget, yes.
Your children's hobbies become your hobbies.
Exactly. And then when you have that moment to yourself, all you want to do is maybe sleep or just rest, and you kind of forget who you are. So, but if you have it down somewhere, it's a reminder to say, you know what, this is who I am and this is where I want to go. So which is why initially I said I think it's important to have a supportive spouse, which is good. If you don't have a supportive spouse, we should be there for each other as women, which is why one of the organizations that we founded, Accelerator Freak. It's an organization for African women in leadership, and we're saying within that platform, as women, we're there to kind of nudge each other and remind ourselves of who we are. Yeah. You forget life happens, but when you are in that community, you have women who are there to pull you up, who are there to remind you, to say, Busi, this is you, this is where we're going. So you really need to be intentional about your growth and surround yourself with people who will be supportive and help you to get to where you want to get to.
2 keywords I'm getting from you from this discussion so far: being self-aware and being intentional. And you touched a lot about supporting other women if you don't have maybe an immediate support structure like a spouse, maybe family. How important is mentorship? I know you've been part of a number of mentorship programs. How important is that for women to mentor each other to find themselves?
I think it's very important. And research actually shows that for women particularly, mentorship is very important because you get to a point in your life where you want to move forward. You don't know how to do it. You don't know who to talk to. But if you have a mentor, somebody who you can look up to, somebody who can actually point you in the right direction, it helps. And as women, many times we want that somebody to, speak to, somebody to say, okay, please just direct me and show me where to go. So mentorship is key in terms of helping people grow and realize their full potential. So, and so many times women look, one looks and thinks, oh, how do I mentor? It's just me. But when it comes to mentoring, it can be in any field where you have expertise. For example, simple as being a homeschooling mom, for example. You've been there, somebody else is starting up. You can kind of mentor somebody else, who wants to homeschool their children. It's about passing on your knowledge to somebody else. You've experienced it. You've got, a little bit more understanding about a particular area of something. you can always pass that on to somebody else, and that helps that person to also grow.
Yeah.
So it's crucial for us to mentor. You know, it's crucial to be mentored.
Who's been your mentor?
Who's been my mentor? Good question. Virginia. Virginia has been my mentor. Virginia, I was in the Women's Development Dialogue series, which was actually sponsored and run by the US Department of State as well as the American Embassy in Zimbabwe. So I was privileged to be a part of that program. And Virginia, she is now actually she's heading the Gender Commission. She was my first mentor ever.
Virginia Mwani.
Yes.
She inspires me from a distance. I've never met her, but we've interacted.
She's a lovely woman.
Yeah.
She's a lovely woman. So she was my mentor in that program, and that's a couple of years ago. And it was really something where it's just for a few months, and then people can go their separate ways. But guess what? We've been in touch. And more now, where I'm getting into stuff to do, more with women and going deeper into it. She's really been somebody I call upon, and I say, Virginia this, Virginia that, and she gives me advice, that kind of thing. So she has been one. And also, when it also comes to mentorship, sometimes I think we think it's got to be somebody who is just close by, who I can see. But guess what? Because of our world being so global, it could be anybody, anywhere. It could be anybody, anyway. So mentorship is really, it's important, when it comes to development and growth. And as a mentor, it also builds you as well. You also grow from being a mentor, passing on that knowledge. It does something to you, and it also adds on to your personality. You also learn from it, because you don't have it all. You don't have all the answers, so you also learn from your mentees.
So are you currently mentoring anyone? Directly or intentionally, or you're doing this in your natural way of meeting people and trying to maybe direct them towards their purpose?
I think at the moment, to be honest, I don't have a specific individual that I can say I am like put on a mentorship program and stuff. But what I'm actually doing now is coaching, which is part of what
the difference between mentoring and coaching?
Well, a coach really is there to kind of help you think through stuff, helps you introspect, right? So they don't give you the answers, but they kind of help you, to think through things. Help you think through things. It really comes from you, They help you think through things and just kind of help you
like
move
drive you towards
yes,
it.
Yes.
And
then your mentor kind of, depending on the mentor that you have, they kind of hold your hand. They kind of hold your hand, and when it comes to a mentor, you can have a spiritual mentor. You can have a mentor in different areas of your life. You might be somebody that you look up to and you aspire to be like that person, and you're saying, okay, please help me. How did you get to where you are? Whereas a coach may not necessarily be somebody who is in your line of work. Like, for example, I do strengths coaching and personal development. You want to grow, personal development in whatever area, and then the coach kind of helps you, to get there. Whereas the mentor, it could be, okay, I want to be like that person. How did you get there? And then they are kind of sharing, not necessarily turning you into them, but sharing with you, and helping you get to where you want to get.
So, Nontoe, you've been telling me about the difference between personal branding and personal development. What is the difference, and how important is it?
Okay, I think when we were talking, we're talking about how I am a personal branding specialist, and I was saying I have kind of moved really from just being a personal branding specialist to really being about personal development. So if you look at personal development, personal branding actually falls under personal development, because personal development covers different aspects of one's personal, one's being. So branding, how you show up,
Project
how
yourself
you
to the
project
other
yourself,
person.
yes, all that comes under personal development. So the personal branding actually will fall under the personal development.
How hard is it for you to tell people the importance of that? I'm looking, for example, in our society today, and young women especially, and how without the African support structure, which is community, the extended family, a lot of people, especially young women, fail to find themselves because they don't know how to develop themselves personally. Without someone such as yourself, how lost do people get in finding the core of who they are and what they're supposed to be in the world?
I think it's very easy to be lost. I think, which is why we spoke about self-awareness, and self-awareness as well comes under the personal development. Self-awareness, it's okay. You need to know what you are. Maybe starting point would be what you're passionate about. What do you love to do? Because that speaks to, many times that speaks to what your purpose in life is, what your strengths are. Okay, so you look at, I always say, you should ask yourself this question: what bothers me?
About life?
Yes, about life. Could be things, whether it's economic or social.
So that's the question about purpose, right?
Yes, what bothers me? And when you figure out what bothers you, many times you will find that whatever bothers you, you have it in you to be a solution to the challenge. I don't want to say the problem, to the challenge. So for example, maybe if what bothers you is people not really maximizing or reaching their full potential, okay, because of maybe lack of knowledge or not being able to project themselves, you might find that in you have that gifting. You enjoy teaching, you enjoy coaching, you enjoy inspiring people. There's that connection between what bothers you
And how to solve
how to solve that problem and your purpose. So I think the starting point would be figure out what bothers you and what do you love doing, and then see how you can actually use that, not just for yourself to make money for your gratification, but I believe that we have all these, this passion, this purpose in life is not for me to gratify me, but it's for me to serve and make a difference in the community and in the lives of others.
And do you think this question can be asked from a young age?
Yeah.
Because I noticed that as we grow older, we get confused. We have all these points at A-level or A-level subjects and all these A's, but you don't know what to do with them. You go to university. I know a lot of people that have done first degrees that they didn't even go to use in their professions. Is it because that what bothers me question wasn't asked from an early age?
I think that's one, that what bothers me question wasn't asked from an early age. And number two, I speak for myself. For example, when I went into accounting, it was because that was the in thing. Okay, what are you doing? I'm doing accounting. So that's what makes the money. Okay, so we are chasing what's the in thing, what makes the money. Or she's successful. I want to look successful, so I should, become a doctor, even though I cannot deal with, blood. You just do it. So I think it's what bothers me. It's like when I'm dealing with my children now. Many times they'll ask me and they say, okay, so does a cleaner make a lot of money? And then my answer is not necessarily, but it depends. Number one, is it something that you love doing? Do you enjoy putting order and cleaning stuff? And then if you do, number two, it's not about saying, does it make money? But it's about then trying to see, okay, how can I make it work? For me to make money as well as to add value as well. So that whole mindset of does it make money? Will I be paid well for it?
It shouldn't be the
It shouldn't
first
be
question.
that. No, it should be what do I love doing? How can I use that to make a difference? And then when you figure out how to use that to make a difference, how to make it make economical sense will come into play. So I think as parents, what we really need to be drumming into our children and what we need to be open to is really find out what your children love, what they are gifted in, and help them to be able to then turn that into something that they can use to make a difference in the community. And not about, okay, will I make money? Will I be paid a lot of money? But how can you make that difference? How can I serve? And in that process, the whole how you can monetize that will come out of it.
Interesting. So as we wrap up talking about children, you mentioned about homeschooling. What advice would you give to parents like me that have only been doing it for a few weeks and going crazy about it?
You know, I listened to a webinar the other day and they were talking about homeschooling. And there's something that this lady said. She said there's a difference between homeschooling and distance learning. Okay. So she was saying that, I won't go too dwell into it, but she was saying that what is happening now where people are being forced to do school online and what have you, it's more of distance learning than homeschooling. But when it comes to homeschooling, I think there's two things to it. There are people who have opted into it, like we have, because we have felt that that was best for our family and for our children. There are people who are temporarily, I want to believe this is just a temporary thing, being forced into it. And in that situation, I really think it's about be calm, first of all. You've got to be calm because it can be very challenging. It can be very challenging, especially if you're the one who is in charge and who's teaching your children. It really can be difficult. And for that child, they're not used to mom being the teacher and mom being mom. You know, so you need, I think, that calmness, that patience, and then maybe have a schedule, but planning your day in advance helps. Where you plan and you say, okay, in the morning we'll do this, and this is how we'll do it, and also taking a break. When things get really tense, just take a break. Another thing that also helps, I think, is also if mothers or whether it's fathers, whoever, the guardian is, partner with others, you know, with other parents who are also, maybe it's parents in your class, and you can help maybe teach, if it's like, if you are, for example, if you are supposed to take a particular subject, maybe you could say, okay, Busi, maybe you focus on fractions,
yes, okay.
And then we can come together, whether it's a WhatsApp group or it's Zoom, and kind of take turns in teaching, in teaching.
And we've mostly focused on us, the parents, how this has disrupted our lives. How have your children taken being homeschooled? What did they think and how did they take it when you said you're no longer going to see your friends and your teachers, you're now going to be home full time? Because I think our children are also suffering from the effects of these changes. How do we get them onto that? Yes,
which is a shame really on the part of the people who are being forced to homeschool. Because there was no preparation for that. Whereas for us, we prepared our children. I mean, knew we were going to do it months in advance. So we kind of sold the idea to them. You know, we taught them all the good stuff about homeschool. We didn't bribe them. But, we kind of sold it to them, kind of told them good stuff. And we even have a few friends who are actually homeschooling. They got to meet them, they got to see the books, they got to understand it meant that if we travel, they can also travel. It means, we have our own timetable. And it doesn't have to be around the school timetable. It's around us and what we want to do. But for the children who have been forced into it, I think really we need to speak to our children, you know, really speaking to them and getting them to understand. And if possible, get them to speak to their friends, you know, whether it's on WhatsApp, whether it's on, you know, short video calls or whatever. Just get them to interact and speak to them and have an environment at home that is maybe not too rigid. Because they are going through stuff.
Yeah.
But kind of let it, yes, we're doing school, but maybe just relax it a little bit.
Yeah.
And because I'm sure they are also going through stuff that they were not mentally prepared for.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of speaking to them, just getting them to speak to their, whether it's Zoom calling or whatever it is, to their friends, and not being too hard on them.
Yeah.
I think.
So Nontoe, as we wrap up, what advice would you give to the women out there that are watching, young girls, about finding themselves, the self-awareness, the purpose, the being intentional? What advice do you leave them with?
I would say you need to be intentional about your growth. You need to sit down and understand, you know, who you are. Be true to your values. You know, who are you? What are my values? What drives me? What bothers me? And actually write it down. Sometimes it's hard to do it, you know, sometimes because you have to think about it so much. Sometimes, many times we just leave it and we just think, oh, you know what, it doesn't matter. But you need to actually write it down and be intentional about it and have an understanding of who you are and have a vision. So you know who you are, have a vision, and then map out your developmental areas. If I want to get to a particular place, if this is what I want to be, what do I need to do to get there? Who do I need to speak to get there? What do I need to change? Whether it's in terms of your attitude, what do I need to change? In terms of a skill set, what do I need to get? In terms of the people around me, who should I be befriending? Who should I be, you know, getting in contact with? And that's stuff that you can only be able to, you know, do if you are intentional about it, if you really think about it and really put it down. And then just follow that. And you'll be surprised how much you can actually grow when you are deliberate about your growth.
Wow. That's wonderful. Nontoe, I wish we could have you on teaching us about the step by step. But unfortunately, we've run out of time. But I'd like to thank you very much for making that time and sharing with us your personal story and your professional growth journey. And we hope to have you again on other platforms to talk to us more and maybe even availing yourself to other women that may need your skills.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been One-on-One with Amakhosikazi. This week we had Nontoe Masuku, who is an organizational development specialist and a personal growth expert. Thank you so much for tuning in. You can get in touch with us on the social media contacts that you'll find on the screen. Otherwise, till next time, it's bye-bye from me.
Ndiredi.